Let me tell you about two students. Both are 19 years old. Both are studying the same thing. Both have the same amount of free time after class. But by the time they graduate, one of them has $0 saved, a pile of student debt, and no real-world experience with money. The other one? They've made over $10,000. Not from their parents. Not from a lucky investment. Not from some app that promises to make you rich overnight. They made it the same way every smart student eventually figures out, by using the one thing they already have that most adults don't. And here's the strange part. That thing isn't talent. It isn't connections. It isn't even hustle in the way people usually mean it. Stick with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to see student life completely differently. And honestly, you might feel a little annoyed that nobody told you this sooner. Here's what most students believe about money. They think making money is something that happens after school. After the degree. After the job offer. After you finally figure out your life. So they wait. They take on debt. They tell themselves, I'll worry about money later. And there's actually a psychological reason this happens. It's called temporal discounting, which is just a fancy way of saying that our brains treat the future like it's less real than the present. The rewards of saving and earning now feel distant and invisible, while the comfort of doing nothing feels immediate and safe. So most students spend 4 years in a kind of financial sleep. Broke, waiting, hoping things get better when real life begins. But here's the problem with that thinking. The years you spend in school are not a waiting room. They are, without exaggerating, one of the most financially powerful periods of your life. And most people completely waste them. Let me show you why, and more importantly, how not to. Let's start with the most important asset you have as a student. It's not your brain. It's not your energy. It's your low cost of living. Think about it. As a student, your expenses are probably at their lifetime lowest. You might share rent. Your meals are cheap. You don't have a car payment, a mortgage, or a family to support. You might even live at home. This is a window. A rare, temporary window where the gap between what you need to spend and what you could earn is massive. Most people don't recognize this window until it's already closed. Now here's the real insight. Making $10,000 as a student isn't about finding one magic income source. It's about understanding a simple idea called stacking small streams. Let me explain with an analogy. Imagine a bucket with a hole in the bottom. That's most people's finances. Money comes in, money leaks out. Now imagine you're filling that bucket with multiple cups of water at the same time, even small ones. Suddenly, the bucket fills faster than it leaks. That's the student money strategy in one image. You're not trying to build a career. You're not trying to replace your parents' income. You're just stacking small, manageable income streams until they add up to something real. So let's break down exactly how this works. Every student knows something that someone else wants to learn. Maybe you're good at math. Maybe you understand essay structure. Maybe you've figured out a subject that other students in your class are struggling with. Tutoring is one of the oldest and most overlooked income sources for students. And the numbers actually make sense. If you charge just $15 an hour in tutor for 3 hours a week, that's $45 a week. Multiply that by 40 weeks in a school year, and you've made $1,800 from sharing knowledge you already have. But here's where psychology plays a trick on people. Most students immediately think, I'm not good enough to teach anyone. That's called the imposter syndrome trap. You don't have to be the best in the world at something. You just have to be one step ahead of the person you're teaching. The student struggling in second-year calculus doesn't need a professor. They need someone who passed second-year calculus last semester. That someone is you. Skills are currency. And the internet has made it possible to sell your skills to anyone, anywhere, without a degree, a resume, or a formal job offer. We're talking about freelancing. Can you write? There are businesses paying students $50 to $150 to write a single blog post. Can you design?
Canva has made basic graphic design accessible to anyone, and small businesses need social media graphics constantly.
Can you edit videos? YouTube creators are desperate for editors and pay per video. Here's what makes this powerful for students specifically. You don't need to take on 40 hours of work a week. Even 2 or 3 small freelance projects a month can add up significantly. Let's say you take on one small writing project a week for $60. That's $240 a month. Over a school year, that's nearly $3,000. Combined with tutoring, you're already approaching $5,000 without dramatically changing your lifestyle. This one sounds almost too simple. But it works. Look around your campus, your neighborhood, your own room. There are things sitting there that someone else wants and would pay for. Textbooks, electronics, clothes, furniture that students throw out at the end of the year. The strategy is basic. You buy low. You sell slightly higher. You repeat. This isn't complicated trading. It's the same thing your grandfather did at garage sales, except now you have Facebook Marketplace, eBay, and apps that make it easier than ever. One student I came across bought used textbooks at the end of semester for almost nothing and resold them at the start of next semester when demand spikes. She made $1,200 in 1 year doing this in her spare time, without skipping a single class. Now, most people only think about earning when they hear the phrase make money. But there's another way to make $10,000 that nobody talks about. Saving aggressively while your costs are low. Here's the math. Let's say your total income from tutoring, freelancing, and the occasional flip adds up to $500 a month over 2 years. That's $12,000. If you save even 70% of that, $350 a month, and put it somewhere it earns a little interest, you're sitting on over $8,000 to $9,000 by the end. The lifestyle sacrifice? Almost zero. Because your baseline expenses as a student are already low. This is the window I mentioned earlier. The gap between your earning potential and your actual expenses has never been wider. And it will never be this wide again. Let's zoom out for a second, because there's a bigger idea underneath all of this. The reason most students don't do any of this isn't laziness. It's a mindset trap called identity mismatch. Most students don't see themselves as earners yet. They see themselves as learners, people in a holding phase before real life begins. But here's what the most financially successful young people understand: school and earning are not opposites. They can and should happen at the same time. In fact, earning money while in school teaches you something no classroom ever will. It teaches you that money is a skill, not a reward that appears after you check the right boxes in life. Every time you land a tutoring client, complete a freelance project, or successfully flip something for profit, your brain gets a small but powerful piece of evidence. The evidence that says, I can create value. I can earn. This is something I know how to do. Psychologists call this self-efficacy, your belief in your own ability to succeed. And it compounds just like money does. The student who earns $500 during their first year of school doesn't just have $500. They have confidence, experience, and proof of concept that will shape every financial decision they make for the rest of their life. Meanwhile, the student who waited? They graduate with a degree and a completely blank slate when it comes to earning outside of a traditional job. So let's make this as simple as possible. Here is what making $10,000 as a student actually looks like, broken into realistic steps. Step 1. Pick one skill you already have: writing, tutoring, designing, editing, and find your first paying opportunity. One client. One project. Just one. Step 2. Once you've done it once, raise your rate slightly or take on one more client. You're not scaling a business. You're just adding a second cup of water to the bucket. Step 3. Look for a simple resell opportunity near you. Campus textbooks, local marketplaces, end-of-year student sales. 1 or 2 flips a month is enough to add a meaningful stream. Step 4. Save intentionally. Not all of it. Not obsessively. But deliberately.
Set a number, even 50% of whatever you earn, and move it somewhere separate so it doesn't get spent on impulse.
Step 5. Repeat for 2 to 3 years of school. That's it. That's the system. No apps. No trading. No get-rich-quick schemes.
Just the quiet, unglamorous, totally achievable strategy of stacking small income streams while your cost of living is still low enough for them to matter.
The $10,000 target? With tutoring alone over 2 years, you're at roughly $3,600.
Add freelancing at even 2 small projects a month, and you add another $3,000 to $4,000. Add a handful of resell wins and some disciplined saving, and you're there.
Not in some fantasy scenario. In a realistic, average student scenario. Here's the thought I want to leave you with. Most people think wealth building starts at 30. Or 35. Or whenever they finally feel ready. But the truth is, the students who end up financially ahead of their peers didn't do anything dramatically different. They didn't work harder or sacrifice their social lives or obsess over money. They just started earlier than everyone else thought was possible. And starting early, even small, does something that no amount of effort later can fully replicate. It buys you time.
And time, in the world of money, is the only resource that is truly impossible to get back once it's gone.
You're in school right now. The window is open. The only question is, are you going to walk through it?